why haven't we deported the millions of undocumented immigrants? Because to do so is suicide. Who are we kidding? Whether many want to admit it or not, the immigrant population we speak about tonight provide a religious, economic, moral, and familial sustainability to this great nation of ours. Therefore, to not address this issue and address it soon, now, is to commit a sin against humanity. Who has the power and carries the moral authority to reconcile our nation and present a viable solution to the immigration reform debate? The faith community has that power. The faith community has that moral responsibility. At the end of the day, this is not a political issue, but rather one of moral and spiritual imperative. An issue of justice firmly grounded on eternal truth. The solution is neither amnesty nor mass deportation. A just, rational policy would put otherwise law-abiding, undocumented persons on one of three paths. A path that leads to pursuing earned legal citizenship or legal residency, a path that leads to acquiring a legal guest worker status, and a path in which a swift process for the deportation of undocumented felons takes place. Americans must also condemn the deceitful rhetoric of those that will label anything other than mass deportation amnesty. Amnesty is a blanket pardon. Paying fines, going to the back of the line and pleading guilt, learning English, and waiting years to become a citizen is not blanket pardon. In addition, the idea that 11 million people want to become citizens is a misnomer. In actuality, the most recent research indicates that approximately 1/3 of those currently here that are undocumented would like to return to their country of origin with some sort of guest worker visa, so they can continue to generate income here legally in the United States. Our objective is to advance not the agenda of the donkey or the elephant, but the agenda of the lamb. The answer to the immigration reform dilemma is a just integration solution, reconciling Leviticus 19 with Romans 13. For at the end of the day, immigration reform is a matter of faith. Faith that America will do what is right. Faith that our nation can once again come together. And a faith that the words of the Statue of Liberty still ring with authenticity and hope. Give me your tired, your poor, your hurtled masses yearning to be free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, or refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
Within your religious communities, the national organizations have made strong stands for comprehensive immigration reform, but how controversial is this in the pews, on the rank and file?
I think in order to win this issue, I mean, in our church, there's about 25% who agree with us. There's about 25% who disagree with us, and there's about the middle 40% or so who are leaning our way, but have to have their questions answered and really need to be motivated to get on the phone, picking it up, and talking to their legislator. And that's where the battle is. And that's where we're trying to convert those people to not only sort of, I think I agree with that, but also to be active so that we can move some of the legislators. And I think the middle ground is where the battle is, and that's where we're trying to win.
One of the biggest concerns that has really blocked debate or blocked passage in Congress has been this issue of amnesty. Is, these people broke the law, and I don't agree with law breaking. There's a cyclical nature, I think, to immigration that really doesn't get talked about. There's a lot of circular migration that happens where people don't just leave and it's a drain to their communities, but a lot of them want to work here for a few years and actually go back to their communities.
We would advocate that we need to look at international economic policies to see how they're impacting push factors for migrants to come here. And for us, even though for many that's pie in the sky, for us that's sort of the answer to the border wall. Illegal immigration is not good for anyone. It's not good for the migrant particularly because they're not protected. And it's really not good for society. We want everyone legal. We want a legal flow, but ultimately, we want people to have the right to live in dignity and live where they come from. They're not happy to go across the desert and risk their lives. The issue, though, is we have to ask ourselves is, are we relying on these people coming to work in our, fields? It goes back to the subtle hypocrisy that we talk about in the system, not just in the U.S., but throughout the hemisphere, are the migrants pawns in a chess game where they're being driven to where the jobs are, but they're not given the protection of the rule of law, and both the receiving and sending countries benefit by it at the expense of the migrants. And that's the big macro moral issue, if there's a word like that, which we need to point out to what's really going on here.
We have no problems with the migrating patterns of employment, but we do have the problems with the migrating patterns of employees.
People don't speak, I believe, because of limited information. They're not up to par on the true issues before us, and we need more roundtables. We need to fuse this segregation, if you will, that we have among the churches that are causing this divide.
The way we approach them is, you don't have to give us, fire and brimstone sermon getting into politics. There are an incredible number of themes in the Gospels dealing with migration and how, in the Old and New Testament, how, Christ welcomed the stranger, that you can just talk about that. Or you can just know how to talk about it in your meetings or, when you're meeting with parishioners, you sort of have to start slow. We did some focus groups, and most Catholics don't like being told how to think about an issue from the pulpit. But you can take the edge off if you provide a sermon that talks about the Good Samaritan, or, the many times that Jesus responded to someone who was not of his faith or his ethnicity, and you can get the message across, I think.
To integrate is to take part of the body politic, the culture, but it's also to respect the differences among people, not just respect, celebrate. What needs to happen is we need to, principle one, value the voices of those immigrant groups and let them set the tempo of how and to what degree they want to integrate in respectful dialogue. Number two, recognize that integration historically in the United States and anywhere has been a process of linguistic acquisition, cultural acquisition, social, economic, political access.
If we're going to be an integrated part of society, then we must get involved. To not get involved is to be ignorant.
What we're saying is, yeah, we understand that it's the law, but what we're saying fundamentally, the issue is, it's a broken law. It's not a good law. That's why it's called comprehensive immigration reform. What we want is reform of the law in ways that best reflect the best of our principles as a country. For me as a Christian, that best reflect the principles I have as a person of faith. So that same text in Romans 12 that says be subject to those, in Romans 13, be subject to those who are in authority, should not be removed from Romans 12, which says, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be ye renewed by the transforming of your mind. Humanity wasn't created for the law. The law was created to serve humanity.
The system is incongruent at best and exploits people at worst. We have a keep out at the border, but help wanted at the workplace. And if they get here, they're able to work, they're able to pay taxes, which they do, pay into Social Security, but they have no protections whatsoever.